So many of these objects I actually ended up finding in my basement. Not really my basement, but my grandmother's basement. Now, sorry, I'm coming down with a cold. So I don't know what's gone in me. Hopefully no demonic spirits. But that being said, many of these objects I did find in my grandmother's basement when I first moved into her house. And if I'd be honest, I wouldn't be telling you the truth if I told you that it felt a little haunted. But I did the best I did to ignore it. And yes, things presented themselves. Things got creepy. Things were unpredictable. Things became eerie. Things became creepy. All that being said, once the movers were in and once I put my down payment, there was not really much I could do, So I decided to kind of just take over the reverse mortgage. And, what they say, once you take on a reverse mortgage, you can't really play the reverse card, because the next card that you play is called an eviction notice, and that's usually played towards you. You're on the receiving end of that. That being said, one of the very first objects I ever received was going to be the Chucky doll. I remember I was walking down to the basement and I saw the Chucky doll. Now, a lot of people told me not to touch the Chucky doll, because as you may know, once you touch this voodoo doll, it is oftentimes the end of you. Now, you can imagine how terrified I was to find that out. I was very terrified because I had touched it more than MJ touched those kids, and I mean that respectfully. I'm a big fan of Michael Jackson, and I'll say the same thing that Michael Jackson said to those kids, that I said to the little Chucky doll, just put it on me. That being said, I did not come up with that joke. I heard it somewhere else. I don't want plagiarism. I don't want to be known as that. But that being said, there were many nights where I slept with that doll, and I used that doll, and I hogtied that doll. Things started to get a little eerie when things, let's just say, were not normal anymore. They were creepy. Now you might be wondering, well, what happened? It all started off slowly, and then it started to grow. I would leave the doll in one position, I'd find it in a different position. I put it face down after I had been finished finishing, if you know. Then it started to kind of grow, like I said. One time let's just say I left a certain substance on the doll. When I come home from work, it's completely clean, almost as if it got up and cleaned itself. And then, the worst part, let me take my time with this. I come home from work and I see the doll with a knife in its hand. Well, that doll, that doll had a knife in its hand, which I thought was weird. I don't remember role-playing with it the night before. I might have done a little too much drinking, by myself, as I tend to do these days, especially after my breakup. But I take the knife out of it, and it has a grip on it, it's not letting go, as if it were living or something. And then the second thing that happens is I decide to just leave it there, like I tend to leave all of my trauma in the past. Just kidding, can't do that. But I go out to the backyard to water my plants, and what do I see? I see my good old little Bonnie, my dog, disemboweled. Oh, and did I mention that Chucky doll is no longer with us? Like, I don't know what happened. Like, it got up, it left. Yeah, exactly. It got up and it left, and I haven't been able to find a sense. I've tried looking everywhere. I obviously didn't ask any of the neighbors, because that would sound crazy. And I hope whoever finds it doesn't put a fluorescent light next to it, because it's going to glow brighter than the sun. Brighter than a sofa at a strip club, if you know what I mean. The second object I found was really this weird clown. I remember walking into my building, into my house for the first time, and the first thing that I ever saw was that clown staring at me in that clock. It was in that old grandfather's clock. There was a doll in the clock, as you can see, and I don't know. I took it to try to sell it, and the best the lady offered me was actually $500, and somebody, something inside of me told me maybe hold on to it, get another opinion. So I did, and I contacted a friend to ask him if I should sell it for that price, at the pawn shop. And then I did some research, and I found out that it was a rare doll, and that it actually belonged to an old voodoo specialist from Haiti. And so then I thought, oh, okay, this is definitely gonna sell for much less if somebody were to find out the history. So I go ahead and I take it to another pawn shop, and they offer me $5,000. They said this is a really rare breed, and that this is a really rare model. And not only that, but that they no longer make them. They're no longer in existence, so it's very hard to find them in mint condition. And I was able to negotiate the price to about a little higher, $15K, because I actually later ended up getting it authenticated, and it was one of 10 that had been handcrafted by this Haitian voodoo doll expert who had been known as El Matador, and which translates to the killer. Now you can imagine finding all this information. I was terrified. And I go ahead and I sell it for $15K. Now you might have thought that would have been the end of it. Great, one missing doll. I get the second one. I sell it for $15K. Until one day, I come home from work, from my dead-end job, and guess what do I find? The doll. There, the clown doll, back in the clock. Like, how did that happen? Of course, I decided to get a little greedy and go to another pawn shop, and I sold that one for more of an expensive price. Because once the news got out that this expensive doll had sold for $15K, I figured, well, hell, maybe I can sell it for $20K. Then I thought, no, $25K. So I sell it for $25K. So now I have, how much? You do the math. I have over, probably, what, is it like 40K? I have 40K in my savings. Well, guess what? I come home a week later, and it's back in the same spot. Now, I thought if I just lock it up, everything would be okay. But I wake up the next morning and it's gone. I mean, like, who comes up with these voodoo doll spirit things, You would think maybe you could just sell it and it'd be gone, but somehow it keeps reappearing. And you think that if you block it, it would not be able to get out, but somehow it phased right through it, or it broke the lock. And it just opened the door like it was like it was living in a residence. But that doll, I haven't been able to see it since that last time. And I still wonder where it is. Sometimes I think God was the one helping me and saving me from that little clown doll. Yeah. So I don't know. Something about this place and dolls just doesn't seem to add up. You know what I mean? Now, one of my final encounters with, once again, dolls. I had these Russian dolls that were donated to me by my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother. Now, I didn't exactly receive them. They were donated to somebody else. Once again, I found them in the basement, and I thought it would be a great idea to open them, even though something said, maybe it's a bad idea because it might release an evil entity. But I said that doesn't matter, so I went ahead and did it anyways. I opened it, and much to my disbelief, a big cloud of smoke was released. I did some research, and I found out that what I had released was nothing more than an evil entity. That is right, nothing more than an evil entity. Now you can imagine how happy I was to figure that out. I wasn't very happy. Strange things started happening. I started levitating. My dog started levitating. There were like dead chickens that started appearing and falling into my yard. One time there was even a grandma who had wandered into my yard, saying that she lived here and that she was trying to find the spirit of the chosen one, which I don't even know what she was talking about. To me, this whole thing was crazy because I don't even know what she was trying to look for, if she had dementia, if she had done too much drugs. And it turns out that her daughter's spirit was trapped into this, and she made me do this whole satanic ritual, which I will not go into. Do not recommend them. It required sacrificing a lamb and a goat, and then sacrificing another human, so that we could transfer the spirit into the actual human, the host. And as you could imagine, it was very debilitating, and it was just so scary. And the heck is that? Did you guys hear that? Oh no, it's happening. No, it's happening. Cut the cameras! Cut the cameras!